Welcome to the Real Life Buyer podcast. In this podcast, you will hear interviews with business owners, entrepreneurs, thought leaders, authors, and technical specialists in their field. These professionals will hasten your development, accelerate your career, and broaden your business know-how. Now, introducing your host, Dave Barr, interviewing with a purchasing twist.
Hello, and welcome to the Real Life Buyer. In this episode, I am delighted to be spending time with Hansa Raja, the founder of Holding Space, a registered charity offering parent and career support to families whose children are struggling with their mental health. As a single mum of three, Hansa has a powerful story to share of her own challenges in supporting her daughter with mental health difficulties. Not only did Hansa witness and experience the gap in the support she craved, but had the strength, determination, and drive to create a supporting organisation to fill the void and become the voice of the parent. So today, I'd like to discover how a former Macmillan lead cancer nurse and operations manager for Eastbourne Food Bank became a charity founder and CEO, and how she continues to relentlessly drive this organisation forward. So without further ado, I welcome Hansa onto the podcast. Hi, Hansa.
Hi, Dave. Thank you for having me here this morning.
Absolute pleasure. And we're bathed in sunshine, so we're both enjoying the moment.
It helps, doesn't it?
Indeed. It does lighten up the day, as they say. So let's sort of kind of jump in. I mentioned a number of things in my introduction about your journey. And obviously, having three children means you're an extremely busy parent, but you had the challenges of your daughter. And you found the strength and the determination to found a charity when all this was going on. It's quite incredible. So can you share with us the pivotal moments that led you to take this bold step and how your personal experiences shaped the mission of your charity?
Well, thank you for your kind words. It's really lovely to hear that. Gosh, if I'm really honest, I wasn't planning on running a charity. So if you'd asked me 5 years ago, would I be sitting here today? I'd have laughed at you and gone, no way at all. So as you mentioned, we went through a really traumatic journey trying to support my daughter. And sadly, we got no support at all. All the professionals just shut the doors and I just didn't know where to turn. And if you're a parent, parenting's hard at the best of times, and then you're suddenly faced with a child with any disability, any illness, and you're just crying out for support. Where do you go? I set up a Facebook page because I was looking for support for me, and I just felt really alone. I felt like a failure. I just felt I was getting it wrong. And sadly, the professionals told me that as well. They told me to go on a parenting course. I was like, great, thanks. I don't need to hear that I'm not doing a good job. I already tell myself I'm not doing a good job. So I set a Facebook page up looking for some support for me, and just wanted to know that I wasn't alone. I wanted to know that there was another family out there that perhaps was going through something similar. That blew up. I had parents reaching out. It just kind of all of a sudden it somehow opened doors for other parents to reach out. That was just before COVID, and then COVID hit in the March, and it just kind of went on a roller coaster from there. Schools started contacting me, parents were contacting me. Obviously, we worked as an unregistered charity for about a year, and I thought, well, actually, just make it into a charity. Let's be a registered charity and go from there. And that was 5 years ago.
Blimey. Yeah.
Yep.
Timing could have been better.
Yeah.
It's obviously worrying that you are in need of help. We have, as you mentioned, a number of professionals out there that, well, we'd like to think they could have supported you, but for whatever reason, either weren't able to or didn't feel they could help you. Did you get to the bottom of what was causing that, resistance to support you in any way?
I think the system's broken, if I'm really honest with you. We wait till children are in crisis, and that's the problem with the NHS and children's mental health services. There's not been enough investment. Schools are just expected to do so much more, and I think children can't cope with the school system, so that's broken as well. And the criteria to get through the front door is so high, and that's we've got to go back to supporting children at the first stage that they're presenting with any issues, and it's that early intervention and support that's missing. And I think that's we have to look at just changing the whole system, and that's what I'm really, really passionate about. Sadly, there's burnout in the NHS. I've worked in the NHS and there's still massive burnout. We can't recruit to posts. There's burnout in teaching. And it almost feels like we've just got to step back, look at the whole system. How can we support those working in the system as well as supporting those that are needing the system and make things better? Because for me, our children, young people are the future. They're going to be running everything that we're doing now. And if we can't look after them now, what hope have we got? And that's where we're failing the next generation.
Yeah, I've come to understand that one of the challenges, if that's the right term, is just trying to get a diagnosis sometimes for your child from an expert. Did you have a huge trouble in trying to get that diagnosis? Sometimes you don't want to hear the diagnosis, of course. I fully understand that. But was that one of the key blockages that prevented you from moving forward?
I don't think so much the diagnosis, because not everything needs to be diagnosed. So if you're struggling, it could be anxiety. Obviously, if you're going into things like depression, self-harm, I think it's just the support that's missing. So it wasn't necessarily I needed a diagnosis. I just needed to get the support that I needed to. For me, it's like I always say, if my daughter had broken her leg, I would have hoped they would have amended it or stabilized it, mended it, and taught me how to look after her. When it comes to mental health, parents and carers aren't getting that. And that's the gap that's missing. The more we can empower parents, the more knowledge you have about something, the better equipped you are to support that person. And we don't do that with mental health. We across the board, I think it's with adults as well. It's not just children, young people. Across the board, we don't get that. And almost you need a diagnosis in order to get the support. It's almost the wrong way round for me. If I'm struggling, I don't need a label. I'm telling you I'm struggling, so support me.
Good point.
Yeah. And again, you're right. There are too many children, young people waiting for diagnosis. It could be, to get an autism diagnosis now, you look at 2 to 3 years. Yeah. But that support, there's no support in between that. So it's almost like, okay, let's put you on the waiting list, get you that diagnosis, but what support can we put in place before that? How can we help you through that? And that's where we're failing completely.
Right. No, I totally resonate with that. Now, you mentioned a transition from putting out some Facebook posts.
Yeah.
I don't know if you set up a Facebook group or whatever, but then moving into an unregistered charity and then a registered charity. Can you explain how on earth you went about that? Because that sounds potentially complicated. And there may be other people who are listening in and says, well, I would like to do something like you've done for a different issue. So can you explain how on earth you went about that process?
Oh God, registering a charity is not easy. I must say, they don't make it easy at all. I just followed my passion. For me, it's the voice of the parent that isn't heard. And it was my passion that drove me. And that keeps me going today as well. And every parent we speak to says that you're the first person who's listened. Nobody's hearing my voice. And that to me is so, so powerful. So I would say to anyone, just go with your passion, go with what works for you. For me, I always wanted to be a charity. Whatever model works for you, do that and just go with it. And it's relentless. It can be relentless, but hopefully whatever's driving you will keep you going. It's not easy, I must say. Running a charity is not easy. Having worked in the charity sector and then do my own charity, it's still not easy.
Right. Would you say setting up a charity, the process to do that is similar to setting up a limited company, for example? What kind of organizations do you need to speak to? What kind of approvals do you need to get? How do you even start that journey, really?
Yeah, I would have thought it's similar to business. I mean, running a charity is a business. We work on the same level, but there is a process through the Charity Commission, and you have to have a board of trustees. You have to have a constitution. You have to have those foundations, and there's a whole, I think it's like an 80-page document that you have to fill out through the Charity Commission and submit that and hope that they approve it. Often they'll come back. It took us, I think, over a year because they had lots of questions and backwards and forwards, all our policies. It's just making sure that your foundations are strong. And especially in the work that we do with children, young people and families, I want everything to be above board. I want to make sure that everyone's safeguarded and what we do is, kind of suits everybody. So there's a process you follow. And I'm sure it's the same with a limited company. You have to go through that process. Just do it.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say. Do it.
Certainly sounds good and rigorous. And I guess that's obviously for important reasons. Otherwise, everyone would be potentially setting up a charity without the, should we say, the ethics perhaps in place.
Yeah, you
So,
need the governance in place. You
yeah,
need your board in place. You need to have everything. And at the end of the day, it's making sure what you're doing suits the community as well as yourself. When you're
yeah.
running a business, it's about looking after yourself as well as the people that you're serving. So make sure, as I say, those strong foundations, that governance, you've got everything in place.
Okay, brilliant. So let's go back to the support you provide. Now, the key thing is to make sure that that support is making a tangible difference, shall we say, certainly to the lives of the families and how they're trying to navigate those kind of challenges, the behaviours that perhaps they may not expect to see, how they deal with those things. I certainly know it's very stressful when let's say a child doesn't react in a conventional, shall we say, manner. So when you go out and try and support somebody, what's the kind of process that you cover with them? Do you bring the parents in for face-to-faces? Do you start to question them about what sort of things are happening, how they're feeling, try and get empathy, the empathy and understanding there? What would they expect to do to get the support from you?
Yeah. So every new referral, we invite in for a face-to-face meeting into offices. Our head office is in Eastbourne, so we meet everybody face-to-face, and I think that's really important. I think there's something about being together, especially since COVID as well. We work with the parent. You know your child better than anybody, so it's about saying to parents, what support do you need? Yes, we get a history, find out what's happening, but what support do you need and how can we support you? I'm not an expert. I'm not a counsellor. I'm not professional. I won't say I'm an expert. What I do say is I get it. I'm a parent with lived experience. So I've been on this journey and I really do empathise. I really do understand what you're going through, but I haven't got all the answers. Can't fix it, but together we'll walk this journey and you will get through that. And it's about working with every family, because what you need was probably different from what I need. So it's working with them and listening to them and saying, how can we support you? And also signposting, because we're all parents lived experience. So it's about making sure we're working in partnership with all the agencies out there and that parents are aware of where to get support. I didn't know where to get support. I worked in the system, but I still didn't know where to go. So I kind of think, that the average parent out there hasn't got a clue. So for us, it's almost just walking that journey with them, connecting them with the right organisation, and that our support is for as long as they need it. So it could be a 10-minute conversation and we signpost them on, or it could be 2-3 years. That journey is kind of a roller coaster for many parents and children. So it's open-ended support. But
Okay.
for me, listen to the parent, because you know your child better than anyone.
Right. It's a bit obviously troubling to know that who to talk to is a challenge, even for somebody in the profession, so to speak. And I guess some of the challenges that the parents are going through will be quite different from one to another. Would it therefore translate that the organisations needed to support them are going to be quite different as well? They're not always going to go to the same organisations. So how do you kind of navigate that? How do you figure out, you've had to try and figure out who to go and see and how to make that connection, how to introduce the parents to that process. How do you go about determining exactly the needs that they have? I know you've had the face-to-face discussions, but then aligning them with the right organisations to deliver the kind of support they need.
I've just learned on my journey. I've learned so much, and I spent a lot of time building up relationships, partnerships. For me, the more we can work together in co-production, in partnership working, we're all supporting the same community, whether that's the statutory body, whether that's another charity, the more we work together. And I've just over the 5 years learned what's out there, talk to people, introduce myself, understand what they do. So we've built up such a big resource that we've got that capability of being able to say, okay, we have this information, and it's not our information to keep, it's about sharing it. And often when you're a parent caring for a child, you are so bogged down with appointments and emails, and you haven't got headspace to start searching. And if you do, sometimes you end up down this rabbit warren, or you end up down American sites. So if we can take that pressure off and say, okay, like, we know organisations, we know the right one we can send you to, and hopefully they can support you, it just makes life easier for that parent.
Okay. Are there certain activities that you do with the parents to help them give them the necessary tools to start to deal with issues early on. Before you can get the introductions, there's going to be this void, I guess. And I'm sure you've come across things that you feel quite often work very well with the children and help the parent to perhaps empathize more. What kind of skill sets, strategies or tools can you share at those kind of meetings with the parents?
A lot of it is about parent peer support. So we run coffee mornings, run coffee evenings. It's about connecting parents together to share with each other and what strategies have worked for other people. So I think that's really valuable, and coming together as a group and sharing. We run workshops, things like understanding the teenage brain. I've learned so much on that, just managing, teenagers. We all go through that.
Indeed.
Yeah. And also understanding when to worry. Often it's like, is this normal teenage behavior, or should I start worrying? You just don't know. So we run workshops. We often ask our parents what they want. A lot want to have information around anxiety. It could be OCD. It's very much, I've built an organization I feel is very parent led, because again, what I needed isn't necessarily what another parent needs. So we always ask our parents, what do you need? What would work for you? What workshops can we put on that would help you? And for me, it's empowering people with knowledge. I wish I'd known half the stuff was around, or I knew half the stuff then. Would it have changed my journey? I don't know. But the more knowledge we have, the more we can empower parents, the easier it is for them, hopefully.
Yeah. Do you say that a key aspect of that, you mentioned coffee mornings and workshops, that's bringing people together. So it's not just one-to-one, it's parents to parents to parents. And I guess they can share the stories that they have and perhaps some of the things they've done that have worked for them. Do you think that's a major part of building the community and having that opportunity to share with like-minded people who experience these things, the problems they've dealt with and are dealing with, and getting advice from each other?
Definitely. Every parent will say they just feel like it's just them going through this. They feel so alone. And I think, the connection is so important. Just connecting people on a shared journey, knowing that you're not alone, knowing that you haven't got it wrong, that it isn't your parenting style, and just being able to hear other stories. Our coffee mornings are really relaxed. They're not heavy. Often we'll talk about all sorts of subjects, but what we do provide is that safe space if they do need to talk, if they need to have a cry, or they just need to feel connected. And I think there's great power in that as well. And we also offer one-to-one support. So my team do one-to-one telephone wellbeing support as well. So it's not necessarily that you have to get to the group to access the support. Again, it's working individually with everybody and what works for them. We have so many parents whose children are not going to school, that parents who have had to give up work, they can't necessarily get out the house. So it's making sure that support is still there for them.
Yeah. You mentioned a key factor there, and that being work. Now, as you said, some people have to give up work, which is obviously financially a huge difficulty. But for those people that are in work and need to work for obvious reasons, how can you help them? Because do you find the employers, the companies that, obviously looking after them, do empathize as well and support them in their journey? Do you need to get involved and explain sometimes even to the employers the challenges those parents are facing?
I'd like to think employers are sympathetic. I think some are, some aren't. I think they've got a lot of work to do with kind of supporting parents in the workplace. And that's a workshop that we have developed, and we will be advertising quite soon for employers and HR managers, because it's understanding, if you're sitting next to somebody at work, do you really know what they're going through? So a lot of organisations, I think most employers now will do mental health at first aid and tick that box. But actually, where we're coming from is who supports the parent in the workplace, and what support do they need? I remember when I was working, if my phone was on red alert, and if my phone went, I'd have to go. I had no choice, but I was also worried about losing my job. But my colleagues knew something was wrong, but I couldn't talk to them about it. And then we've got to do a lot more with supporting parents in the workplace. So again, if there's anyone listening to this from an employer or a HR background, please do get in touch with us and we can have a chat. They're bite-sized workshops. We can do them at lunchtime. We can do them online and just help you to get the best from your parents.
Do you find there's a difference between the support from a smaller company to those that are large organizations, or does it seem to be fairly evenly spread how they react?
I think it depends on who your CEO is. I think it doesn't matter on what the size of the company is. I think it comes down to the ethos of that company. It really does. Yeah. And I'd just like to think we're getting there slowly.
Keep chipping away.
Definitely. We all need support, don't we? It's, we've all got lives outside of work, and we do need to work. We've got the cost of living crisis going on at the moment. So many people are having to work. So let's put support in for that.
Yeah. Now, I want to touch on the fact that you are full-time mum, pretty much, always. You're trying to run a charity. You're trying to support other people. So your demands on your time are enormous. And you've got to balance an operational running of the company, so to speak, running of the charity, with preparing the strategic vision and enacting that vision going forward. So how do you go about juggling all these different priorities and trying to, get somewhere without being overwhelmed yourself?
Oh, it's hard. It's hard. I've had imposter syndrome. I've had days where I've thought, I'm just giving all this up. I can't do this. And I think even running a business, you'll know that. You just go on this journey, don't you? I've got an amazing team. So, I couldn't do this without my team of volunteers. I've got an amazing trustee board who help me with the strategic vision, governance, and help me to move the charity forward. My friends, my family. I have my little dog. So for me, my time out is walking my dog, walking on the beach. And really, I've had to learn to look after myself. I've had to really learn to put that self-care in without burning out. And that's been really important. And I've done that through therapy. So I've had therapy myself. And I'm not ashamed to say that. I think, we need to talk more openly, that it's okay to get help. It's okay to say, I'm struggling today, but being self-employed and running your own business, it's hard, isn't it? And when it's your baby, you want to put 110% into it. But I think over the years, I've learned to be kind to myself and reach out. I'm better at reaching out, and I'm better at saying, actually, I need help and I need support and I can't do this alone.
Yeah, very, very wise. If you are burnt out, then everybody's going to suffer. So absolutely. Right. Now, I guess one of the biggest challenges, or the multiple challenges you have, and we've touched on this in previous conversations, is the ability to get funding to help you do more and more and cope with the demands that people have. Obviously, getting personal support, people to volunteer, etc. Can you explain the kind of challenges you're facing right at the moment? What are your biggest problems and how are you trying to resolve those right now?
Don't know about resolving them. The biggest challenge at the moment is funding. So the landscape at the moment for all charities, and particularly small charities like ours, is getting grant funding. So 90% of our funding comes from grant and trust funds, and it's getting harder and harder. So whereas previously you get 1 in 5 applications were successful, we're looking at 1 in 20 now, if you're lucky. A lot of funders are closing or pausing their funding streams to reevaluate. So we've got to the end of this year. If we don't get funding and we don't know if we can survive next year. And I'm hearing that across the board for charities that I speak to. So we are looking at, as well as writing grant funding, we're looking for corporate sponsorship, we're looking for individuals kind of giving, any ways that people can help us. There is money out there. It's just, I'm open to having conversations with anybody that's interested in what we're doing and would really like to support us. We've had over 1,000 parents through our door in 5 years. So demand isn't a problem, it's capacity. And like any business, we need money to survive. We all have overheads. Volunteering's kind of challenge, I think, for everybody at the moment as well. As I mentioned the cost of living crisis earlier. I know people are out working 2-3 jobs just to survive. But again, we're a small volunteer team. I don't have paid staff, so we are looking for volunteers. You don't have to have a mental health background. Everyone has skills and expertise, I think, that they can offer, whether that's through a business. So again, yes, finances always help, but I think even if people can offer their skills, it could be event planning, it could be social media, it could be looking at our data. People have got skills and expertise that can offer, as well as financial support. So those are challenges I'm hearing kind of nationally and particularly for us at the moment. Yeah.
Obviously, for us in the UK, there's been a change in the political landscape. Do you think that's going to be a positive thing for charities, or is it a wait and see moment?
Bit of both. bit of both. I mean, he's got several charity leaders on around the table, which is really, really exciting to see and hear. And I'm optimistic. I really hope. I think we're ready for a change in the UK. I think we need a change across the board, and certainly for charities. I think we're all feeling quite optimistic that we'll get our voices heard, and it's particular small charities as well.
Right. Now, obviously, what's critical, certainly for people who are facing the difficulties that we've talked about today, is to know where to go. Mm-hmm. So what's the best place for people to reach out to you? Where should they go? On social media, on websites, wherever? What's the best places to find you?
Yeah, website. So parents, if there are parents listening to this, you can just refer yourself. You don't need a professional referral, so you can self-refer. There's a contact form on our website, and just fill that in and we'll get back to you. Obviously, we have all our social media channels to keep up to date with what we do. And we also have a closed group on Facebook just for parents. So we've kind of got that open door, whatever works for you.
Okay. So am I right in saying the website, they should go to holdingspace.org.uk?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned Facebook. Would that be Eastbourne Holding Space they should look for?
Yeah.
I guess you're on other social media platforms and that as well.
Yeah. Instagram, LinkedIn. So that's our main platforms.
Okay. So just to finish off now, thinking of the future, let's assuming that everything's going to go along tickety-boo, you're going to get the funding you need, the volunteers you need. What are your aspirations for the charity for the next, say, 1 to 3 years?
I want to get mental health on the high street. I want to open those conversations. So we started that transition last year. So our head office now is right in the centre of town in Eastbourne. And I just want people to be able to knock on the door and get instant support and access, and you know, that they don't feel afraid to reach out. And then my vision is to have hubs around the county. So you're having a hub in Hastings, in Lewis Duckfield, where right on your doorstep, where it's not just support, but we're running workshops, we're running activities for families, you know, things like art and drama and, you know, walk and talks, because it's not all about therapy, but we're having well-being interventions that will help, whether it's the parent, the child, or the young person, but just having mini hubs across the county. So that's the plan for the next 3 years.
Brilliant. It's wonderful to hear the outstanding work that you're doing.
Thank you.
How you're managing to cope with it all and drive things forwards. And you're certainly making a difference for people with the challenges we've discussed. So thank you very much. I think that's important to say. You are doing a wonderful job.
Thank you.
I see you out there all the time, and you're certainly an advocate for your charity. So thank you for your efforts.
Oh, thank you so much for your kind words and for having me here today.
It's an absolute pleasure. So take care, and I'll see you soon, no doubt.
Thanks, Dave.
So there's another Real Life Buyer podcast. I do hope you enjoyed it, and it has given you some ideas and inspiration for greater action and achievement. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes, and a 5-star review would be most appreciated. If you would like to discover more about me and what I do, take a look at www.thereallifebuyer.co.uk. Bye.